They did not craft it to heal. They crafted it to erase what should not return. Beneath a city that had forgotten the meaning of mercy, there existed a sanctum where confession was not spoken, but extracted. No priest waited there with open hands. No judge sat beneath banners of law. The chamber belonged to those who believed the soul was not sacred, the body was not sovereign, and suffering was not wisdom. It was data. The ceiling above the sanctum pulsed with dim, breathing light, its veins spreading through black stone like thoughts trapped inside a skull. The air tasted faintly of glass, ash, and something metallic that never fully settled on the tongue. Instruments lined the walls, though few resembled tools any healer would claim. Some were grown from bone-white crystal. Others moved without hands. All of them served a single purpose: to study what remained after life had been broken. There, a figure known only as the Architect of Ends pursued his obsession. He studied recurrence, not life, not death, but the insults between them, creatures that returned after execution, minds that persisted after collapse, flesh that remembered how to stand after it had been torn beyond recognition, soldiers dragged back from death through forbidden rites, prisoners whose wounds closed faster than law could punish them, devotees who mistook survival for absolution. To the architect, such things were not miracles. They were structural errors. Existence, he believed, was an equation. Every wound had a cause. Every consequence had a place. Every ending should remain final once the system had delivered it. Anything that returned after conclusion was not blessed. It was a flaw refusing correction. So he designed a solution, not a cure, a revision. The Architect of Ends was not alone. Around him gathered a sect of scholars, surgeons, alchemists, executioners, and penitents who called themselves the Architects of Second Flesh. They believed redemption was too important to be left to gods, remorse, or time. If guilt could scar the mind, then the mind could be recut. If pain could shape the body, then the body could be redesigned. If death could be resisted, then consequence itself could be rewritten. Their doctrine was simple. A wound is a flaw in design. A scar is an admission of failure. Memory is the prison that teaches the self to remain broken. They rejected healing because healing acknowledged that damage had happened. To mend was to accept the wound as part of the record. To forgive was to permit imperfection to remain in history. They wanted something cleaner. They wanted the wound removed from existence. For years they harvested strange materials from places where reality had already weakened. Fractured light from execution mirrors, residue from bodies that had died mid-transformation, ash from saints whose relics continued to bleed, glass grown in darkness from sand buried beneath collapsed temples. The vessel was not forged. It was grown. Layer by layer, it emerged inside a womb of suspended radiance. Its surface resembled liquid glass caught in the instant before shattering, yet it never broke. Beneath its shell, veins of pale cyan light pulsed like restrained thought. At certain angles, violet and teal shimmered across it. At others, it seemed void black, deeper than any reflection could explain. It did not open. It yielded. The architects watched as the vessel learned the shape of their desire. Inside, it churned a living draft, not liquid, not energy, not entirely memory. It was contradiction given form. Decay reintroduced as fuel. Damage turned inward until it became power. Poison taught to serve purpose instead of ruin. The Architect of Ends named it with reverence, absent from all his other work. The Vessel of Unmaking Grace. The first subject was a condemned soldier. He had died once already. His execution had been recorded, witnessed, and sealed. Yet 3 nights after burial, forbidden rites pulled him back through the dark threshold between ending and return. He woke screaming beneath the earth, clawed his way out of the grave and was captured before dawn. To the city, he was an abomination. To the architect, he was evidence. The soldier trembled when they brought him into the sanctum. His body was a map of contradiction, execution wounds imperfectly sealed. Old battlefield scars crossing newer ritual burns, one eye clouded by death and the other bright with terror. He remembered dying. He remembered the rope. He remembered the silence after breath. The architect approached with the vessel in hand. The artifact softened in his grip, parting like skin beneath warm breath. A thin stream of luminous fluid rose from it, not poured but summoned, bending through the air as if drawn by command.
"Drink,"
said the architect. The soldier tried to turn away. The draft entered him anyway. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the soldier screamed. His wounds did not close. They unhappened. The bruising around his throat dissolved, as though the rope had never tightened. Blood reversed its path into veins. Split flesh smoothed itself not through repair, but through denial. Broken bone forgot the angle of fracture. Even old scars, deep, defining, years older than his execution, peeled from his skin like lies no longer permitted to remain. When it ended, the soldier collapsed, alive, whole, unmarked, but wrong. His eyes no longer held terror, they held absence. He did not remember the rope. He did not remember the grave. He did not remember the battles that had taught him caution, nor the wounds that had taught him endurance. He looked at his own hands as if they belonged to a stranger whose life he had inherited too late. The architect observed him without pity.
"Acceptable,"
he said. The vessel had not given life, it had given revision. The experiments continued. The architects of second flesh celebrated their discovery as the first engineered mercy. They claimed they had surpassed healing, surpassed resurrection, surpassed repentance itself. Why endure pain when the moment of pain could be removed? Why carry scars when the events that carved them could be denied? The vessel answered every wound with impossible grace. Poison vanished, not because it was neutralized, but because the body rejected the truth of exposure. Broken limbs realigned because fracture was removed from the sequence of the self. Exhaustion retreated as the body reverted to an earlier state of resilience. Infection became irrelevant when the moment of contamination no longer existed. For a brief and terrifying span, those who drank became untouchable by consequence. Warriors sought it, nobles begged for it, executioners feared it. Those who understood it refused it, because every use carried a residue, and the residue did not remain in flesh. It gathered in identity. At first the cost seemed small, a name forgotten for a moment, a face misplaced in memory, a victory remembered without its price, a grief dulled until it felt borrowed from someone else. Then the losses deepened. A duelist who used the vessel after every wound forgot why he had learned to fight. A mother saved from poison no longer recognized the child she had tried to protect. A general restored after battle could recite formations perfectly, yet no longer understood why retreat had once shamed him. The drinkers became cleaner and emptier. Their bodies remained flawless, unmarred, almost luminous in their perfection. Yet each act of unmaking removed more than damage. It removed the experience that had given damage meaning. Pain disappeared, but so did caution. Scars vanished, but so did proof of survival. Weakness was erased, but with it went the memory of becoming strong. The architects called this refinement. The subjects called it loss, until they forgot enough to stop calling it anything. By the seventh subject, something changed. She was not chosen. She took the vessel. Her name had once been Sereth Vey, though few in the sect dared speak it after what she became. She had served as an enforcer for the architects of second flesh, hunting escaped subjects, guarding sealed chambers, and dragging failed experiments back into the sanctum for correction. Her loyalty had not been born from faith. It had been beaten into her through refinement after refinement, each one justified as improvement. Her body had been broken too many times to count. Her bones carried old designs beneath new flesh. Her veins had darkened from failed drafts. Her nerves sang constantly, with pain the architects insisted was evidence of progress. She had watched soldiers forget themselves. She had watched penitents become statues with breathing lungs. She had watched the vessel polish people into absence. And she understood what the architects did not. The vessel did not erase destruction. It negotiated with it. The night she stole it, alarms bloomed through the sanctum like red flowers opening in darkness. The architect of ends found her standing beneath the breathing ceiling, the vessel pulsing in her hands as if it recognized her.
You misunderstand its purpose,
he said. Sereth looked at him with eyes bright from sleepless agony.
No.
She answered.
You do.
She drank. The vessel yielded without resistance. This time, the draft did not soothe. It did not erase quickly. It entered her like a storm given teeth. Her veins darkened, then ignited with iridescent venom. Her breath turned ragged. Her muscles twisted beneath the skin. Bones reshaped themselves with sounds like glass bending under pressure. Corruption spread through her body in violent waves. The architects expected collapse. Sereth welcomed it. Pain did not fade. It clarified. Where others had tried to resist the paradox, she leaned into it. Damage surged through her as raw energy. Poison became motion. Decay became precision. Every unraveling cell fed the next act of becoming. Her wounds did not heal, nor did they simply vanish. They were overwritten mid-ruin. She was not restored to what she had been. She was carried forward by everything meant to destroy her. The architects tried to contain her. They sealed the chamber doors. Sereth broke them without striking twice. They released fumes designed to paralyze the lungs. Her body learned them, accepted them, and turned their poison into acceleration. They fired needles of sanctified metal into her spine. The wounds opened, bright and terrible, then rewrote themselves into strength before the blood reached the floor. She did not become invincible because she could not be harmed. She became terrifying because harm no longer remained stable inside her. Every attempt to injure her entered the cycle. Every strike fed transformation. Every poison became a language her body learned to speak. Every fracture became an argument she won by refusing to remain the same thing long enough to be broken. The architect of ends watched his creation defy him. For the first time, emotion touched his face. Not fear, offense. Sereth stood before him, no longer entirely human, yet not hollow like the others. Her body was scarred and unscarred at once, its surface shifting between damage and correction. Light moved beneath her skin in violet, teal, and pale cyan threads. Her eyes held pain, memory, fury, and purpose. She had not been cleaned of consequence. She had become consequent in motion.
You were meant to be corrected,
the architect said. Sereth tightened her grip around the vessel.
I was meant to survive you.
He raised his hand, and the ceiling's living veins brightened. Instruments woke along the walls. The sanctum prepared to extract, divide, and rewrite her. Sereth moved first. By dawn, the hidden chamber was silent. The architects of second flesh were gone. Some lay dead. Some were erased by their own instruments. Some fled into the lower tunnels and were never seen again. The architect of ends vanished from every record except the ones carved in places no living scholar could reach. Sereth left the sanctum carrying the Vessel of Unmaking Grace, not as a weapon, not as a cure, as a companion. After the fall of the sanctum, stories spread unevenly. No two accounts agreed. Some claimed Sereth became a saint of the broken, appearing on battlefields to offer desperate warriors one final chance to stand. Others described her as a curse, wearing a human outline, trailing corrupted light and leaving survivors unable to decide whether they had been saved or replaced. In one village, she appeared during a plague of black rain. Those who drank from the vessel survived, but many forgot the dead they had mourned. In a mountain pass, she gave the draught to a shield-bearer crushed beneath stone. He rose stronger than before, held the pass until refugees escaped, then wandered away without remembering why he had stood there. In a burned monastery, a dying scholar begged for the vessel, not to live, but to forget the fire that had taken his students. Sereth refused him.
Pain is not always the enemy,
She said. He cursed her until he died. She carried that curse with her. The vessel refilled itself after every use, slowly, silently, as if drawing possibility from the wounds of the world. It did not seek the wounded. Wounds alone did not interest it. It appeared most vividly in moments of absolute desperation, when collapse was inevitable, when the body could no longer endure, when survival demanded surrender. Those who found it often mistook it for salvation. It was not. It was a choice. To survive by surrendering control. To erase damage by risking the self that damage had shaped. To become whole in body while allowing memory, purpose, and identity to be negotiated away. Few survived the first sip. Fewer remained themselves after the second. But those who endured did not heal. They rewrote what it meant to break. Years passed before the architect of Ven's return, or something wearing his shape did. He appeared in the ruins of the sanctum during a season when the city above had already collapsed into dust and rumor. His face was unchanged. Too unchanged. No age had touched him. No hunger had hallowed him. No wound marked him. Yet he moved like a man whose body had forgotten the reason for motion. Sereth found him standing beneath the dead ceiling, surrounded by instruments that no longer breathed.
You used it on yourself.
She said. The architect turned toward her. For a long moment, he seemed unable to place her within the architecture of his memory. Then recognition flickered.
Imperfection persists,
He said. His voice was thin, polished, almost empty. He had pursued absolute correction after losing the vessel. With fragments of its formula, he had attempted to revise himself. Not once, not twice. Again and again, removing failure, fear, doubt, grief, weakness, hesitation, every fracture in the design of his own being. He had succeeded more completely than any subject before him. That was the horror. There was almost nothing left. No guilt, no ambition, no curiosity, no hunger for discovery. No memory of why recurrence had offended him. Only the structure remained, a mind reduced to its final command: correct the error. He reached for the Vessel of Unmaking Grace. It pulsed in Sereth's hand. Then it recoiled. For the first time, the artifact refused its maker. The architect stared at it, and something like confusion moved across his flawless face. Sereth understood then. The vessel did not reject imperfection. It fed on the desire to escape consequence. And the architect had erased even that desire until only absence remained. He was no longer worthy of correction. He was the final result of it. A body that could not be harmed because there was nothing left within it that could be lost. Sereth did not strike him. She walked away. Behind her, the architect of ends stood forever in the ruins of his own answer, perfect and meaningless. The Vessel of Unmaking Grace survives, still sealed, still pulsing, still waiting. Some Sereth still carries it through places where war has exhausted courage and ruin has become unavoidable. Others say she finally drank too deeply and became part of the vessel's living contradiction. Some claim the artifact now appears without her, resting in the hands of the dying, beside shattered shields, beneath collapsed temples, or inside rooms where someone has begged for a second chance without understanding what a second chance requires. Its surface still shifts like liquid glass caught mid-collapse. Its veins still glow pale, signed beneath violet and teal shadow. It still does not open. It yields, but never freely. The vessel does not promise rebirth. It does not offer mercy. It does not restore what was lost in any way the soul can trust. It offers something far more dangerous, a life where nothing that ever broke you was allowed to exist at all. To the desperate, that sounds like grace. To the wise, it sounds like erasure, because every scar is a record. Every wound survived is a witness. Every pain endured becomes part of the architecture of the self. Remove too much suffering, and you may remove weakness. Remove too much weakness, and you may remove fear. Remove too much fear, and you may remove memory. Remove too much memory, and eventually even the name beneath the flesh becomes negotiable. The final transformation is not death, it is absence, a perfect body, an untouched face, a flawless vessel where a life once lived, and still the artifact waits, not for the wounded, not for the dying, but for those who believe they can escape the cost of becoming whole.